Hi everyone, welcome to this new episode. I'm Ivan Mader and you are on the Act Club podcast. And today I have a new guest. I have an actor, a podcaster and a comedian. I want to welcome the Italian, English, British Tino Orsini. Hi Tino, how are you?
Hello, Yvan, bonjour.
Bonjour, ça va et vous?
Oui, très bien, merci.
Merci,
bien. Thank you very much for having me on.
You're very welcome. I'm very pleased to have you. So, to begin our interview, I would like to ask you a little bit about your story, how you approached the art. So, how did you begin? What's your story from your younger years from now?
Well, I caught the acting bug as a youngster in my early teens. When I moved from Naples to London, I basically was introduced to theatre and the arts. And at school, I got cast in a school play at the age of 13. I loved it. I loved it from the moment I got on stage. I had such a wonderful feeling. I said, "Oh my God, what is this? This is the best thing in the world. I want to do more." And so I didn't go the sort of the appropriate routes. I trained in Los Angeles, and I also trained here in London at the Stella, at the Drama Studio London. And but I didn't feel it didn't feel real to me. I wanted to learn the craft on set, on stage. So I began to graft on stage and independent films and commercials and short films and things like that. And that's where I really learned, the discipline that it all entails, really. And I've been working steadily since, and I love it. I love being an actor. I love being on stage, telling a story, connecting with an audience. It's such a gift. It really is. Yeah.
So are you thinking of yourself more about an actor or a comedian?
To be honest, I have not been called a comedian that many times. I've done comedies. I love it when an audience laughs. But I would say I'm more of an actor. I would say I was trained classically, and I've done lots of classical repertory and festivals around the country and abroad. So I would classify myself more as an actor. But I love comedy. I love the euphoria of an audience laughing. It's the best recognition I could get. Definitely, yeah.
So
yeah, more. Yeah.
Do you prefer more of the screen work or the theater work?
I love both. I love theater. It's immediacy, the connection every night, different audience, different reaction, different play, different performance every night. But screen and television and film, I really enjoy it because it's just so intimate and subtle, Whereas on theatre, you need to be grand and make sure everybody can see you and hear you. On television and film, you just have to be very, very subtle because everything on the face is recorded. Every little, the camera never lies, and it picks up on every little detail of your internal world, and hopefully that will, translate into the outer world as well.
Yeah. So do you have like character work driven, like you have a preference of doing some of characters? I don't know if you have some positioning and roles that you like to immerse yourself in.
Well, I mean, in my early career, I said yes to everything because, typecasting is casting after all, and obviously work begets work. And but I've been up for sort of the prototype of the mafia and the priest, and which is in a way it aligns with my heritage being Italian European. But I do want to diversify and play interesting roles, something that will not only surprise the audience, but will surprise me in the process as well, something character driven, something out of my depths, So I really want to, just really stretch myself as an artist, and do all sorts of roles. I consider myself a character actor, really.
Yeah.
I love the idea of being other people, older, younger, different background, different orientations, different lifestyles, whatever. So that keeps me going. The idea of doing stuff which is interesting and different and fresh to me.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So do you have some ideas, like a character that you would like to do and you didn't do it yet?
Well, I talk, Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare. I did a lot of Shakespeare at drama school, and I've done some British festivals, touring around, mainly Cambridge, and so the idea of doing something like King Lear would be wonderful. As I get older, I think King Lear is the ultimate sort of stretch for any actor, and I think. I'm a little young now, but once I get older, God willing, I would love to do King Lear and do it properly and do it with gusto and with my own life experience. Something like that would be wonderful. Yeah, I'd love to do something. But as I get older, I'm getting more work now than I ever did. As a youngster, I was struggling in Los Angeles, trying to do anything to get my foot in the door. And I poo-pooed commercials. I said, I don't want to do commercials. That's not a thing to do for a real actor. But I've done so much commercial work, and it's a very, especially now, they make them like films. They make like mini films, so well done, beautifully made. And I've done quite a few commercials. And I look back at my younger self and think, you get through this. I've become much more comfortable with myself as I got older. That's what I want to say. Much more open to life, and hopefully that will help me in good stead in my career.
Yeah, you're totally right. So on another hand, like, because we are in the act club, so the artist can thrive. What are for you the essential qualities of an artist?
Wow. It's a good question. I would say honesty. I would say being vulnerable and honest with yourself in order to produce work that has integrity and truth to it. Of course, as an actor, you're playing a different character, not yourself. You're pretending to be somebody else. But to find what are the similarities between myself and this character, even though he may be completely different from you as a person, different life experience, but what are the similarities between me and this character? And I go back to my, Stanislavski method that I did at Stella Adler, and it taught me a hell of a lot about, being truthful in imaginary circumstances, Meisner. And it's so true, you want to be present, you want to be full of life on stage. You want to be telling this story, but not really telling the story. You don't want to, indicate to the audience, look at me, I'm feeling upset or I'm feeling angry. But really living in the moment and having those emotions come up naturally is a technique. And then once you've got that, you can throw everything away and you just be in the present, be in the moment.
Yeah,
but that's for me. I would say honesty and vulnerability. I think as an artist, I hope to achieve that, in my work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're totally right, and of course, also for me, Stanislavski is one of the greatest, and it's the base of everything, and all just went from him, like Stella Adler and Meisner and Strasberg, which I work with for Strasberg method. So yeah, I guess it's a way of being the more truthful when you are acting, and no more acting, but just living under imaginary circumstances. And yeah, that's pretty intense, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Stanislavski for me just changed. Well, he gave me purpose as an actor, because up until that point, I just emulated other actors who I admired on screen, and I didn't have my own voice yet. And I found that voice with at the Stella Adler Conservatory, and I found myself as an artist, as a living human being, telling a story, and I think it's a wonderful method. And but I still use it to this day, even years later. I still have I use the technique and sensory recall, and I still do class on a regular basis in order to keep my tools sharp, because we need to, as creatives, we need to be constantly practicing the art of the craft of acting or whatever it is, singing or dancing or whatever, writing, directing, which I've done a little bit of everything. I'm sort of multifunctional in a way, because I love diversifying. But essentially, I'm an actor at the core of it all. The base, like you say. The basis.
Yeah, it's like a gym for the soul.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's a gym for, and it's hard work, but the rewards they reveal themselves to be so beautiful, and when somebody comes up to you at the end of the show and says, "My God, I'd forgotten I had those feelings, I'd forgotten," and that's the most rewarding thing, when somebody really resonates with your work and finds affinity with it. I think that's a beautiful gift again,
Sure. Following on that, so what is talent for you?
Well, talent, I think, I've known a lot of people with a lot of talent, and they've not kept going in the industry because it's tough and rejection. I think talent is perseverance. It's keeping going. I think that's the talent. I used to think talent was how can you verbalize. When you see it, you know it. And again, they say look up to the people you look up to and steal from them, steal from the best. And I looked up to Marlon Brando and Pacino and all these wonderful actors in the 40s, and actresses like Judy Garland, Lauren Bacall, Ingrid Bergman, just wonderful people in the past that hopefully we're following in their footsteps, in some way, in our own little way. We're continuing that legacy, that continuation is still going, and it's ever evolving, and so I'm hoping I'm a little bit of a part of that, just carrying on with that. But talent, I think, it's people call it a spark, or but you can be talented in cooking, being a dad, being a mom, or being a writer. You can have so many different talents, but what is it? It's so ethereal. It's you can't, like I say, you know it when you see it,
Yeah, absolutely. So for you, it's like talent is something that comes easily. Maybe you talk about cooking, but maybe if someone can cook easily without troubles, without struggles, maybe that is talent. But it's not something that is very long distance, and it have to be nurtured.
Yes. Even as a child, I felt I when I was in a school play, I felt like I was of service, something greater than myself, by performing to an audience. And but like I said, talent is it's a very it's what you have to offer to the world, and in our industry we kind of just we dilute it towards performance or creativity, but I think everybody has a talent in them, whether they choose to pursue it or deny it for various reasons. They just want to have a quiet life, raise a family, etc., and would never dare to try and break in an industry which is famous for being very extremely difficult to sustain a career, as actors especially, So I think talent is guts. That's what talent is. It's the guts to persevere. I would say.
Guts. I like that. I like guess. Yeah, that's cool. So, following on that subject, what is for you art, and in the following, what is an artist for you, in your opinion?
Well, art. I mean, I studied art, at school, and I was very good. I was, but then I realized, as I went through my journey, I realized it doesn't have to be just a painting. Art can be a beautiful piece of music, or a ballet, or it could be a beautiful story, a short story which evokes beautiful emotions. So an artist is somebody who practices that and is of service to that form, and translates it into the public, into people who read the book or watch the film or come to the theatre and see a show, and get transformed in a way by the artist, because the artist has a duty and responsibility to either change somebody's mind, or affect somebody emotionally, or make them think about their own lives. That's what an artist's job is, to let the audience see themselves through you as an artist. I think that's how I would say. Yeah.
Like a mirror.
Yeah, like a reflection, like a mirror,
A reflection, yeah.
a clear mirror where you see your life reflected in the artist, in the character, in the writer, whatever.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because you see the beautiful parts of the human soul, but you see also the more hidden parts, and the more obscure parts of the human soul in some plays or some movies. You can see it, and I think the audience is touched by that, because it's
Yeah.
not something that we want to show in the real life.
No, no. We're taught as we grow up. We're taught that, especially us boys. We're taught that emotions are bad. We don't want to cry. We don't want to feel feelings. And it's like you said, like you beautifully put it. It's something that resonates with the soul, with the spirit of the person, and it's sometimes it can be dark. Sometimes it can be things we don't normally talk about, and the audience is engrossed by that, because they're seeing something on stage that they would never imagine saying to their wives or husbands or children. They wouldn't say that in a million years, but they're seeing it in front of them, and it's like, wow. So it's a real duty for us to cover all bases, and reflect life in all its wondrous beauty and truths, and the dark elements of life as well. Of course, that's drama. We need to highlight that as actors, we're dramatizing life. We're taking life, and we're putting it in in imaginary circumstances. Yeah.
Sure. Perfect. So, on another subject, how is it important for you to have a mentor? And did you have one, or severals? And what did you learn from them? So, who were them, and what did you learn from them? What did you retain from them?
Well, I think mentors are extremely important. I was very lucky in my early career. I had a mentor by the name of Sally Marr, who happened to be the mother of the comedian Lenny Bruce, who revolutionized stand-up comedy. And she was a wonderful lady who taught me how to be truthful, and she was extremely honest, in her advice. I was so green and new to the industry. I didn't know anything about the business side of it, and she'd say, "Kid, it's not what you know, it's who you know," she'd say. And I didn't realize that I believed her, because at that point I didn't know anybody, and nobody knew me. So she taught me the value of doing the work, and keep putting the work out, and try not to think about the results or the expectations too much. Just continuing the also another wonderful mentor was Stella Adler, actually, one of the tutors there called Arthur Mendoza, who uh, was is still a wonderful acting teacher in Los Angeles. Who taught Benicio del Toro. Salma Hayek was in my class with him, and I remember doing exercises on her back. We had to do those kind of, And years later, another student said, "Do you realize who that was?" I was like, "Who?" Salma Hayek. I had no idea who she was. I just, she's a very pretty Mexican young actress, and I had no idea she was going to become so huge.
Yeah,
great
that's funny.
talent. Yeah. But yeah, so Arthur would be another mentor. But along the way, there've been a few people who I won't name because who have been very instrumental in my growing as a human being as well, not just as an artist, as an actor. But I've had a few people who have encouraged me at school. You can make a living out of this. Have you ever thought about doing this professionally? People that really cared, about my future as an actor. And I always look back and feel a lot of gratitude for those people. So mentors, extremely important, especially as you're growing and finding out what kind of artist you are, You need that kind of guidance,
Yeah, coming back to what you said and about what your mentor said about it's not about what you are, but who you know. No, what you know, but who you know. Is that right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so what she was saying, it was like more it's important to have connections with people in your own circle of art. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, it's a business built on relationships. We need to nurture those relationships over the years. I later discovered, somebody said to me, a producer on a shoot once said to me, I told her this story, and she said, actually, it's who knows you, because now in this era of the socials and what you're doing, podcasting, and it's really an era of putting yourself out there. Whereas 15, 20 years ago there was no such thing as podcasts, and you just had to like so. But I mean, she was very wise when she said that. She was one wonderful woman, Sally. In fact, there was a play about her that Joan Rivers played her on Broadway, and my uncle was a friend of hers who introduced me to her, and he was her escort, and it was a show called Sally Marr and Her Escorts. It ran on Broadway a few years ago before she passed. But she was also portrayed in many things, like Lenny, the film with Dustin Hoffman. And she's been a consultant. She was a consultant on that project. But I used to go to her house and just reminisce, and she made me laugh so much. She was so funny, a true comedian,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, hysterical.
You can also see Lenny Bruce on the TV show Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, yeah.
Yeah, it was beautifully portrayed, but we don't see the mother. We don't see...
No. There's also a wonderful actor, I forget his name, in New York, who does the Lenny Bruce show, a one-man show, who I recently saw being interviewed. And there's been lots and lots of productions on Lenny Bruce. I mean, what do you say about such a enigmatic, interesting, and relevant? He's still relevant today in 2026. What he said in the 60s, he still resonates today. There's not many people that can claim that. But yeah, Lenny Bruce, wonderful.
Yeah. So, to come back to what you said about it's who knows you. I find it very interesting also because that's one of the reasons I began this podcast in the first place, because I saw on social media that a lot of artists were like struggling and feeling alone, moreover after the COVID crisis, and being at home alone and not knowing anyone, not believing that, not having any connections. And I was thinking, no, that's not normal, because we have this beautiful tool at our disposition, which is internet. and we can share with everybody who we are, what we are doing. So begin to help actors or other artists to thrive, and maybe have some people we can give you advices, and all people we can begin their career. So that's why I'm trying to do so. Thank you for saying that, because that's my intention with this podcast.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. You know, I always thought it's who you know. I always thought, you know, because my uncle had a restaurant and a chain of restaurants, and he had a lot of connections in the industry. I thought that was my way in, and I thought, well, you know, I was a little naive, because, you know, it's you've still got to do the work. You can be anybody's nephew, but if you don't deliver on set, then you're not going to be getting much work. You know, you've got to have that innate ability to whatever it is.
Yes.
But you know, I think, but this producer said, it's who knows you, and that changed the concept completely 360 degrees, because I realized I need to put myself out there. You know, and especially in the era of internet, we have all this available channels and outlets in which we can really thrive. And I had my own podcast for about 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
I interviewed people like yourself, and I had the best time, you know. And during COVID, when there was a lockdown, I started doing readings and just posting them on socials. You know,
beautiful.
People really enjoy. Yeah, just I really wanted to contribute in some way or other, a little way, you know. So yeah, I mean, there's no excuse, because we have so much at hand. You know, we can really utilize the technology that we have. Yeah,
Exactly. So for the younger generations, what would you say to help them deal with rejection, which is a lot of our life as an actors?
Well, rejection is, you know, now that I know what it is, it doesn't. When I don't get the role, yes, of course it you know, I take it on the chin, but I kind of move on quicker now than I used to. Before, when I didn't get a role, I would brew for days, if not weeks. Oh, I was so right for that role, you know. Whereas now, you know, as I've got on in the industry and I'm a little older, more experienced, I don't let it get to me so much, you know, as deeply. I just move on much quicker now. And to the younger actors and the creatives out there, you know, just realize that rejection is part of the course, you know. And it's not personal. It's got to do with some context or some kind of exterior reason. You know, you don't look like the star of the TV show, or you're too tall, you're too short, you know, it could be a myriad of reasons why you don't get the role. So I've learned how not to take it personally, but of course it still hurts when, you know, it's still when it's something you really believe in and you do your best self-tape or whatever, and you don't get a, you know, booking. It's hard, but it gets easier, and it gets, you know, it just becomes part of the course, and you just brush yourself off and you do the next. Hopefully you get the next job, you know.
Yeah.
If you really want to, you know.
Yeah. So the follow-up question, would it be like, how do you move on and get on living?
Good question, Ivan. No, I don't know how you move on. I tend to just go for a swim, have a sauna, go for a burger, and just do something, you know, completely detached from the industry and acting, just having a nice coffee with a friend and just switch off and just leave it there, you know. Because the opportunity itself that's what it is. It's an opportunity. So, you know, if we do book, it's just a bonus. But the opportunity to show up is, again, you're building relationships with a casting director, with a showrunner, with a producer, you know. Yeah. So you're building that relationship, and people think, oh, let's get Tino from a couple of years back. Remember when we auditioned him for this and that? Let's get him back into the room and see whether he's right for this as well, you know, if he's right, if he's a fit. So every audition is a valid form of expressing yourself, and hopefully which will lead to stronger connections with people that are in the position to hire you, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Also, because if you're a professional and you show up on time, if it's in person or if you send a self-tape before the deadline and you're just doing good work, but you were not just right for this role in particular, casting director will remember you because they will think, okay, he's a professional, he do the work on time, he's good, but he's just not right for this role in particular. But I will remember him maybe for some other project, and maybe years after it will have some results. But it's
ripples,
like it's like seeds. You plant
seeds,
along the way, and maybe one day something will grow out of it.
Yeah, totally. And I've been on the other side of the desk as well. I've been a casting director when I've produced and directed theatre. So I always made sure that the actor came into the room and we had a positive reception and respect for the actor as well, because it's hard work. It's doing a self tape. You've got to be everything. You've got to be director. You've got to be lighting. You've got to be sound man. You've got to be pretty much everything. Even though a lot of auditions now are going back in the room, thankfully, but still a majority is going to continue to be self-tape.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's important to just carry on and if you really want it, everything is achievable in life. If you put a positive mindset and really believe in yourself and your talent and your acting and you think, I've got something to offer, then the right people will show up in your career, in your life, at the right time. It's just that sometimes it's hurry up and wait. You've got to sometimes there's nothing, there's no work in the horizon, and you feel like giving up, and you think, oh, what is the point? And you get an email from your agent, you got a recall for that commercial 3 weeks ago or whatever, 2 days ago. So the universe has always got your back. I believe that.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. Would you suggest when in the waiting time that you don't have project that you do something on your own?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Create your own work. That's what everybody is doing, creating their own work, whether it's a web series, it could be a web series. And now, with all the, social platforms like TikTok and Instagram, you can do little videos. If you want to go into comedy, you can do little, you don't have to wait for other people to give you permission. You can start the process yourself, and you can do all sorts of things now. I totally believe in that. Yeah. I started my own podcast. I directed this show I did at the theatre. I've produced. I've always had this drive, in me that I don't know where it comes from, but I've always felt like I was driven to make something beautiful, something interesting, in my work. And I still retain that. I still retain that sense of inner belief,
Yeah.
But sometimes when you're not working, when you're not getting auditions, or you just find ways to harness your creativity in other ways. I started writing recently a one-person show, for example. Mm-hmm. Never done that before in my life, so I'm going to be doing that this year in London in June, and going up to Edinburgh Fringe in August. And I'm completely crazy because I've never written or produced my own show on my own, no character, just me and my story.
Yeah.
So it's also finding those ways that scare you in order to grow, which is
Yeah. I totally see what you're saying, is that you have to get out of your comfort zone. But we will get back to your project a little bit later. I just have one question before, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Okay.
So that's a question I love so much, and I ask all my guests. So what would you say if you met your younger self in the streets of London and you see the young Tino? What would you say to him?
Now you're getting to me. I would say, I'd say, don't worry. You're going to be all right. You're going to get through it. Just keep on going, and you don't have to suffer in order to be believable. To be truthful. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to. You can enjoy your life. You can create. You can find beautiful community, a fellowship, or a family. Of origins or elsewhere. Logical family. People that support you and believe in you and want you to succeed and be happy. That's what I'd say to my younger self. I'd say you'll get through it. You'll be all right. You'll be okay.
Yeah. So a little bit like Anthony Hopkins' book, We Did
You'll
Okay,
be all right,
Kid.
kid. Yeah,
We
I
Did
just read
Okay,
that. I
Kid.
read that.
So
Last week.
I'm reading it right now. I'm almost at the end, and I find it
Oh,
so beautiful.
so it's wonderful, so humble and funny and wonderful.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
recommend. I recommend. I still haven't finished it yet, but it's great.
yeah. I loved it. Loved it.
It's great. Okay, so another question. So, is there a dream that you still chase? Or you not chasing, but maybe, yeah, you are reaching out?
Well, I think just to continue what I'm doing, finding work for myself, being honest, being vulnerable, producing stuff of value to me that means something to me. I think that's what I'm reaching for. And of course, I've always had, I don't know how to verbalize it, but I've always had this dream of creating a beautiful story, whether it's a film or a play. And I want to use my own experience because I've had many interesting uh, many an interesting trajectory up to this point, and I want to put that story, those experiences, to good use and hopefully help people along the way. That would be my dream, really, from here.
Okay, so that's why I want for you, and I hope it will come to life.
Thank you, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So finally, we can arrive where I wanted to arrive. So have you news to share? And so there is this one-man show that you wanted to
Yes,
talk about. So that's the
yes.
moment when you can tell everything that you want to share with the world, and when we can find you.
Okay, so about a year ago, I wanted to write something for myself. I wanted to create my own work. So what I did, I started writing, just keeping on writing, because I've always written, even as a youngster, I always wrote. And I didn't know what was going to come out, a book or a solo show or something. And I did a wonderful writing course at the Imperial College here in London last year, and I got my writing ambitions again, and I started developing this one-person show, and I'm putting it up. I'm putting it up in June in London at the Etcetera Theatre from the 2nd to the 7th of June, and and then I'm taking it up to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in August.
Oh, perfect.
So I'm doing 6 shows in London and 6 shows in Edinburgh. So that's basically it. I'm working with a wonderful director called Claudio Macor, who's a wonderful playwright and director. And I'm just sort of in the final drafts and just ready to learn and memorize it and tell my story. Being open to my own experiences and not knowing how people will take it, because it's just me on
Okay, so
stage.
to go deeper, it's like it's a one-man show, but it's not like, as I was saying, a comedian, but more like share your story one on, not one, but
Hopefully more than
one
one.
on
Yeah.
one with the audience.
Yeah. Yes, it's just me. There's no character, even though I play different characters throughout my life.
Hmm.
But there's no character to hide behind. It's just me and the audience and taking them on a journey. And there are some comedic elements to it as well. That hopefully will make them laugh or touch them in some way. So I'm really, really excited. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm really, and it's got me, excited again about acting and theatre. So I'm really lucky that I finally found something to do, and hopefully that will lead on to other things. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, sure, but yeah, the objective is to go with this show a little bit everywhere, I guess.
That'll be good. That'll be good. Tour it. If people will have us,
Yeah,
we'll
we're sending a message to the universe right now.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. That's great because in Edinburgh is such a so many things have started there and have taken off to major productions, and but at the moment I'm just excited by the whole process of creating my story, my experiences in Hollywood, and my experiences with addiction coming out and things like that, which are really personal. And I think it's a good time I think it's the right time to finally just tell my story and just, and then take people on a journey with me.
Yeah, that seems very interesting, and I'm very sad that I'm not in London to see it. But if I'm in London at this time, I will reach out and try to come, because I'm always curious to see my fellow actors and see the work. And that's good to go back also in theater to see real people. Yeah. So that's very interesting. So
thank you, and it'd be lovely to have you. If we don't bring it to Paris, if we bring it to Paris, I'll let you know.
Yeah, sure. Feel free to reach out, and we will have a glass of wine or maybe a coffee. We will see.
Sounds great. Great.
So to finish our interview. Is there a platform, or where can we find you online to see your work? Maybe a YouTube channel, maybe some of the movies you were in, and we will put everything in description, and we will share everything.
Yeah, no, I mean, people can find me on Instagram and Facebook, and my Instagram is Tino Orsini Official, at Tino Orsini Official. And I always put my work, behind the scenes, and I always try to share projects. Most recently, I did a short film called Please to Kill You, which is doing the festival circuit at the moment. I just got nominated for Best Actor at the Romford Horror Festival.
Oh, great! Congratulations!
Thank you so much. It was completely unexpected. I'm ever so chuffed and honoured. But once the film is ready, it'll be out. I'm not sure which platforms, but I will let you know. But people can reach out to me on Facebook and Instagram and places like that. I'm on socials. I'm pretty consistent on sharing my work, and my life. Yeah.
So, out of curiosity, in this short movie, were you playing a villain or a good guy?
You'd have to wait to see it.
Okay. So is it already out, or
it's at a private screening in London. We had a private screening, and then it was at the Genesis Cinema here in London, East London, and now it's doing the circuits. Yes, it's hopefully once it's ready, it'll be out. But it was an interesting character because again, I had to. It was such a diverse character from who I really am, So, and of course, it's more like a psychological thriller than horror, but it's very, very well done, directed by Adolfo Vico, and my scene partner was a wonderful actor called Dominic Quinn, and it's a two-hander, essentially. It's beautifully shot. I can't wait for you to see it.
Yeah, but feel free to share it when it's available, and I will share it on the Act Club, because it's also a part of why we are doing this, to show and give visibility for fellow actors and artists.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. So, Tino, it's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for coming, and I appreciate you telling a little bit about your story and your take on the artistic world.
Thank you so much, Yvonne, and I really appreciate you having me on the show, and you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
You really are. It's been a pleasure to talk with you today. It really has. Yeah.
Okay, so I will post everything we talked about, and I will see you on the way, surely.
For sure. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Tino. Bye bye.
Bye, bye, Mark.